Hello and welcome to another video from Betfair Trading Community. Today we're going to be looking at the under 2.5 goals strategy, and we're going to look at the over under 2.5 goals market because it's one of the most popular markets that people trade on Betfair. But most traders kind of trade it blindly. They just go, oh, I think that'll be a low scoring match. They don't really have any particular reasons for that, but I think it will be, so I'm going to just bet on it. They use gut feel, guesswork, or just poor stats that don't work, or stats that they've found for free somewhere that don't really help them. So I'm going to show you a simple but powerful way to build an under 2.5 goals trading strategy, and we're going to make it so that this is a strategy that you can build yourself, that you can get a strategy that actually works trading on Betfair and build it on data, not guesswork. And that's going to be one of the key themes that you will see throughout videos from Betfair Trading Community, because we found that traders who actually use data above kind of gut feeling have a much better chance of success in the Betfair trading markets. And you've probably found that yourself. You've had gut feelings and you've tried to trade that way and you've probably lost money. And that kind of tends to be the pattern and trend of Betfair traders. So I'm going to walk you through how you can create a strategy like this, the filters that I would use to create an under 2.5 goal strategy. I'm going to demonstrate a little bit how you can do that as well within the Betfair Trading Community software, because the idea is that I want you to be able to create this strategy yourself and make it really simple. So I love the over under 2.5 goals market, but I'm more of an overs trader. So in general, you'll probably see more videos from me about overs, but I also like unders. And one of the things with overs is that when you're trading over 2.5 goals a lot, you start to notice trends where under 2.5 goals might be successful. Now, next week, I'm actually going to do a video on over under 2.5 goals leagues during the summer. Which ones, actually, I've got some results. I've been tracking a strategy for a while now, and I've got some results that are really interesting, kind of showing which leagues might work well and which might not. And I'd love to hear your opinion on that as well. So watch next week's video when you get a chance. We always try and release them on a Monday, usually a Monday afternoon. So make sure you watch that video, and we will link it back to this one, because this is going to really help you if you're looking to become an under 2.5 goals trader. One of the things I like about over under 2.5 goals, the market is very liquid. The price, as we know, will move. If there's no goal, it will move in on the under 2.5 goals side throughout the match, okay? So we've got a market that's actually in a lot of ways very predictable. Now, if there's a goal, that's when you'll see the price spike out. Maybe a red card, also the other variable that can make the price change dramatically. But other than that, the market's pretty consistent in what it does, and so it does give you trading opportunities, obviously without the need for goals. And goals can be quite difficult to come for in football, especially for specific leagues and especially for specific teams. And most importantly, there's a reason it's over under 2.5 goals. Most football matches do still finish under 3 goals. So we know that perhaps we can develop a strategy for unders, and that might be just as successful, if not more successful, than the strategy we develop for overs. But just because the market is popular doesn't mean it's easy. You need to find the right matches to trade, where goals are statistically unlikely. Now, this is where the Betfair Trading Community software can give you a massive boost and really help you in your trading. So what you can do if you look at the right-hand side of my screen here, what you can do is you can actually create a strategy yourself based on the criteria you choose. And I'm going to go through 3 or 4 bits of criteria that I like to personally use for under 2.5 goals. You might have your own ideas, and that's cool. There's lots of things you can choose from here, and we built it this way intentionally so that kind of rookie beginner traders can create a strategy, but also people who are advanced pro traders can also create strategies that are in a lot more depth if they wish to. So I'm going to look at what I would look to filter, and the first thing I'm going to look to filter would be average goals per game. So I'm just going to use overall for this, but you could use home or away if you just wanted to look at the home stats or the away stats. And then we're going to go for average, and we're going to go for goals per match. So let's scroll down to that one. There you go, goals scored per match. Now here's where your kind of variables can come into play. How many goals do you want there to be scored per match? Well, if you're looking for under 2.5, you're probably going to want a stat that's under 2.5, right? You might want to look for, let's say, less than, I don't know, 2.4 or something like that. Or you might want greater than, less than or equal to 2.4. So that you're finding matches where the average is going to be below 2.4, perhaps often way below 2.4. And that will give you obviously a selection of matches. We'll just add that. That will give you a selection of matches where that will be the case. Again, you can restrict this to current season if you wish. You can exclude playoffs. I'd always recommend excluding. Although sometimes, to be honest, unders are quite good on playoffs because teams play quite tightly. The only problem is that the market will have probably accounted for that. So, yeah, I'm not a massive fan of trading playoffs in general. But if you want to, you've got the option here. And again, that's the beauty of the software. It gives you the options that you want to have. Then what I'd look at is the percentage. So we've got the average score being under 2.5, but also I'd quite like a fairly high percentage. So I might go for, again, we'll go for overall, and then we'll look at percentage, and then we will go for full-time under 2.5 goals. Where is it? Okay, here we go. Full-time over under. And as you can see, we've got virtually all the stats you're going to want here. Again, it gives you that depth, but also means that if you want to create a strategy on a different market or on a different scoreline, you can do so. Now, for overall full-time under, we actually want this to be fairly high, don't we? So we might say here, we want this to be above, let's say, 60%. That's quite high. You might want to lower that a bit. But anyway, we can add that in. And we've got a stat that's finding us a lot of matches that have had under 2.5 in their last few matches. One thing I like to look at is league trends. Now, I've mentioned this already. It's not something I'm going to add into a filter yet. But once you trade this, get some data, you can actually start to look at which leagues work and which don't. And then you can really look at the ones that don't work very well at all. And a bit of a spoiler for next week. The Brazilian Serie A is really good for under 2.5 goals. The Serie B, really not. Okay, so I'm going to show you that's one of the more interesting things from next week, where we look at the contrast of leagues that can be even within your own countries. But you can restrict the leagues how you like. All you have to do is select the ones you want if you want to do that. If you don't tick any, obviously it will keep all the leagues. But yeah, that's an easy way of selecting which leagues you want to trade. Obviously, you've got date restrictions, things like that. Now, you can use time of first goal. That's not a bad one if you're looking to scalp. If you're just looking to enter for 15, 20 minutes, that might be the thing you add to the strategy itself. Not a massive fan of that one myself, just purely because I find that often games like that, if you're looking for under 2.5, you could get an early goal and it's 1-0 after 5 minutes. And then you panic, you trade out, and then it finishes 1-0. And you'll see that quite often. Because I often feel like when you get a strategy that's looking for overall results, then you should take the overall result into account rather than worrying about what happens in the first few minutes. But anyway, that's by the by. Again, beauty of this software is that you can choose to do it how you want. If you want to add that in, then feel free. But what I'm also going to use here is odds. So I think it's really important that you try and get a baseline for the odds you're using to trade. You try and get a baseline for value. So let's say here we go for Betfair odds. And now if they're having over under 2.5, 60% of the time, one odds we could look to start off with here, and we're going to want to start with obviously under 2.5. We could look for greater than or equal to, we can start with 2.0, okay? So that means that we're getting odds of 50% when we know that it happens 60% of the time. I'm going to put that, let's give it a name of under 2.5 goals and just save it. And let's see, yeah, nothing's come up here. So probably the filters are a bit too tight. So what I'd look to do here now is either decrease these odds a bit or decrease this figure. I'm actually going to decrease this figure. Let's see if we get anything on 55. We might not. I mean, to be honest, because it's summer, there's not a ton of leagues. But as you can see, all I had to do was click edit and update, and it's done it now. So again, you can do this easily. You don't need to give it another name or anything. You've got the original name. So let's look at changing the odds a little here. So let's bring them into, let's say, 1.9. See if we can get anything. Get rid of that one. There we go. There's a match that's come up. Okay. Now, whether this match you'll find is particularly valued for under 2.5 goals, again, something you might want to go. So when you look at this Urawa Shonan game, you'll want to look at what's the form, what's happened, half time. Okay, lots of half time games where there's not been many goals scored. That looks a positive. Head to head, quite often only having a 0-0 or a 1-0 at half time. Now, those sorts of scorelines will be really handy for you for under 2.5 goals. But you do want to go and look into this a little bit more, especially if you only got one selection pop up. Like I say, it's summer leagues. It's a Wednesday when I'm filming this. There's not going to be a ton of matches on today. But when you get a shortlist, let's say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games, still go and have a little look at it. What I want to do now is go and check, right, Urawa, Shonan, what stage of the season are they at? What's the motivation for them today? Are they both playing to win? Are their key players out? Things like that. Really stuff that's quite easy to go and check in 1 or 2 minutes and well worth doing. That's my advice on what I do there. That's kind of a way to set up an under 2.5 goals strategy. Now, you can do this yourself. If you want a copy of this one, I can send it over to you as well. So just comment under 2.5 goals and I'll show you how to get that if you're a member. If you're not a member, we've actually got some free strategies we can send you. So if you want a copy of the free strategies, let me know and I can send those over to you. Just say free in the comments and I will do that. I think that one of the key things with this market is you want to look for value. So don't just pick, I might say, well, I know that there's hardly any goals often in Argentina. Okay, I'm going to back under 2.5 goals in, the Boca Juniors versus River Plate game. And then suddenly you see that the odds are, 1.4 or something. And you're going, so you really want to be backing unders at 1.4. I suggest it's very rare that it's value. Remember that this is the good thing with the over under 2.5 goals market is that the odds are usually close to evens on either side, right? And when they're not, when it's that far away, that's when you kind of think, oh, is it value on this side or am I actually the one getting shafted? And I'd suggest if you're backing under 2.5 goals at 1.4, you're going to struggle to make much of a living out of that because you're going to need a really high strike rate. And you'll be surprised how often these matches that they don't expect goals from in Argentina actually end up having goals, which might be a little bit of the base of the video I'm doing next week on the leagues. And I'll kind of explain how I've figured out kind of which leagues are working for this strategy and what the strategy does to do that. And that's a really interesting exercise that you can do yourself as well. But that's pretty much it. Under 2.5 goals. It's a good strategy to trade. I enjoy trading it. I think sometimes when you're trading a match and you don't want goals, it can be a little bit easier to start with. When you're hoping for a goal, you can watch games and think, God, there's never going to be a goal. They could play for a month of Sundays. I mean, a good example of this actually is the Tottenham Man United Europa League final. You could kind of tell after about a minute, yeah, this ain't going to be a goal fest, right? So if you're watching something like that and you go, right, well, what's the stats behind all this? Okay, the stats suggest X, Y, and Z. Okay, that confirms my belief. Then that's the kind of thing I think is a good stepping stone for trading under 2.5 goals. And remember, it's much harder to score a goal than it is not to. So, if you are going to trade this trade at the start of the match and kind of let it run as it goes, then that's something you could trade again. And again, look for key players, things like that. Key players being out, especially forwards, is actually an advantage for an under 2.5 goal strategy. Okay, so that might be something. If let's say we look at this Urawa Shonan game and we look at that and we go, oh look, all the star forwards are out. That's definitely one I'm going to trade. But at the moment, you've got the short list, you've narrowed it down from a lot of games, and that's cool. But you still want to take that next further research step, which I've told you how to do. And again, with this criteria, so you can change all of this how you like. You can add what you like. You might want to add in a certain amount of games played that season. You might want to restrict to current season, restrict to going in play. Obviously, if you're trading in play, is something you're going to want to do. You might want to exclude playoffs. Again, playoffs play a bit differently. You might even want to exclude the promoted relegation teams, or you might want to restrict to the same opposition type. Maybe your theory is that well, teams that are similar, in a similar position, the league similar position, are going to have tighter matches because they're more evenly matched and evenly balanced. And there might be some method to that. So that might be something that's worth testing and looking at as well. Anyway, hopefully I've got your kind of juices flowing and your brain flowing about what kind of under 2.5 goal strategy you could create. If you're interested in the Betfair Trading Community software and you've never used it before, or maybe you have in the past and you forgot or didn't realize all the features that we have, we do run it for your first month. You get it half price, okay? So if that's something you're interested in, go and do that. You've got no excuse now. You've got a really dirt cheap, basically, entry point, and you can go and discover the software for yourself and see if it helps you with your trading. But anyway, I will be back next week, and next week I'm going to do a video on the leagues for over under 2.5 goals based on the strategy I've been testing. I'll talk about that strategy as well, and why I think the results are really interesting. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe, do all those good things. I do read all the comments, so I really enjoy it when you do respond to the video. Like I say, if you want the free strategies, just say the word free and we'll get that over to you. And if you remember and you want the under 2.5 goals strategy, just say under 2.5 goals. Hopefully that's helped you, and I hope you make some money this week trading on Betfair.